All right. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining our webinar today. I'm Savannah from LocknCharge, and I'll start off by introducing our presenters today. We have Bob Ladouceur, EdTech and Audiovisual Teacher at Ogdensburg City School District, and Katie Short, Senior Territory Manager at LocknCharge. We'll have time for questions at the end, and we'll open it up for any questions for Bob and Katie. And with that, I'll turn it over to Katie.
Thanks everyone for joining today. Just wanted to give a little disclaimer. Bob and I both are battling an upper respiratory infection. So there may be the occasional cough, a cough off of some sort, maybe some Kleenex. So please bear with us today. We are, like Savannah said, we're going to revisit and talk with Bob. He is one of our earliest FUYL Smart Locker customers. And we're going to hear about his deployment with the FUYL Tower and then all the updates and changes that has happened within his purchase, as well within the last year of our webinar. To start, Bob, can you give me a brief recap of the last year's webinar regarding why you originally purchased the towers?
Sure. First of all, thanks everybody thanks Katie, thanks Savannah for having me here, and I appreciate their work. I want to give a lot of credit to LocknCharge. We joined with them in the depths of COVID, and actually started with them pre-COVID with our gradual gradual rollout of Chromebook carts. So we started with their actual rolling carts in the elementary classroom, which were a huge success. And I'm going to throw out the fact that we had one of our carts that came in damaged and all of that. I called Katie and all of that with center pictures and all of that stuff. And instead of having me send any of it back, they sent me another cart immediately, and we used that cart for parts. So at that point, I knew I was with a good company that really cared about their customers, and that's been like that since the get-go. So I don't know about you as an ed tech coordinator for our district. I appreciate the connection that I have with all the vendors that I work with, and this is one of the best ones that I have. So thanks to both of you for that. They did not pay me to say that either. I'm just saying. So anyways, we started with those rolling carts in what we thought was going to be a gradual rollout. And we immediately got into the situation that we were all in, right, with COVID and all of that. And in the midst of COVID, we discovered these wonderful charging towers and what a use they would be as we started moving back into a situation where kids were back in school again, and the ease of use of these towers for students to be able to easily charge their devices wherever they happen to be. We have great usage in our towers. We have one of the things that I like about the towers is we initially placed them in a variety of different places throughout our 712 middle school, high school building. We are still using the carts at our elementary level because it's, in classroom specific, right? So, but here at our middle school and high school, they're moving from classes to classes, and we have discovered that where our initial placement was for towers, we needed to adapt them. So it was easy for us to move them. So that was a huge thing for us as we discovered, hey, this was the best place. Maybe it wasn't. So we moved them to another location, and now those towers that we moved have a greater usage too. So being able to not only place them, have ease of use for students to be able to type in their student ID, access the drawer, pop their device in, let it charge, even if it's for a period, it gets a substantial charge during that time, and then pull it out for use for the rest of the day. It works really well. So that was our initial usage of that and how we used it for, a good period of time over a couple of years. So that was where we were over that time, Katie.
So it started as more or less public charging.
Public charging.
Yeah. So for kids that forgot to charge, because that is a problem, and there is a lot of time wasted, and they're not ready for class. These teachers are like, come on, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Um,
the hardest part, to be honest, was pushing the teachers to say, "Hey, can I have a couple extra chargers in my room?"
oh yeah.
And I was like, "No." And one of them, one of my frequent flyers, she's the sweetest person on the face of the earth, and trying to make. I said, "No, that charging. We put that tower there because I knew that you were going to say, get a couple extra charging cords."
Yeah.
And now she uses it all the time because it's literally right outside her door. So.
So then you said something where it kind of changed during COVID. Were you using them more or less? Like I know students went virtually for a number of weeks, days, months, year. Were you using that more or less for like pickup for devices and repairs, or how are you using it then?
Yeah, we were using it for students to pick them up. We placed them in spots where they were able to do that. It made it easier for us to just manage the tower instead of managing the kids. So we were able to email them and say, hey, your device is in bay one. You can grab it there. Just type in your student ID and boom, you'll get it. So they didn't necessarily have to come all the way into school to get it. They could come into the part that they had access to and grab it. So, and that plays into the portability of these towers. I can't really say portable, but they're easy to move if you need to move them, is my point. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
as long as they have connection to your network, which ours are all networked in.
And then when the students came back from COVID, what did you use them for public charging, or did you start updating it with maybe some towers for break fix, some loaners? How did that all look?
Well, when we initially came back from COVID, we were using them specifically for public charging, as well as if somebody said, hey, I need a loaner, we would be able to say, okay, it's in high school tower by the office, just pick it up there, it's in bay one. So obviously at some point we were like, okay, this is great as it is, but it was also taking more managed work on the back end. We needed to be, so let's just say this. My office is a hub for myself and my students that work with me. I have a great AV crew that does a lot of this work even if I'm not here. That they can assign devices to the towers. They manage the towers. They all have access admin codes in order to get into the towers to update them. Okay. So, that's a whole back end thing that I work on. Lots of testing and stuff like that ahead of that for my kids to actually be able to do any of this. So, we were kind of looking and going, okay, well, we're kind of doing a lot of work here on one end in order to get that stuff out. But it was working. It was working for us. We were just looking for a way to kind of streamline things.
One thing that I don't know if I asked you last year's webinar was, did you find when the students did come back, because everyone's one-to-one now, and COVID obviously pushed the schools that weren't one-to-one. Mm-hmm. Did you see a huge increase in students that are breaking their device and forgetting them at home?
Say that again, Katie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no worries. So after students came back from COVID, a lot of districts that we work with said, because they were forced to kind of go one-to-one if they were, on the edge, that when they came back, they had an issue with students, and still, like to this day, that students forget their devices or break their devices more frequently because they're bringing them home. So did you see an increase in that?
Yes.
Okay.
Increase in it to the point where it was more difficult for us to manage.
Yeah.
Just because my students are dependent on their schedule when they can be down here.
Sure.
Because they come down during their study halls, and I am not only here in this building, but I'm in 2 other elementary buildings as well, and frequently doing training. So sometimes there was a little bit longer delay than what I would have liked in being able to get an extra device out.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that's what we commonly hear is it's getting pushed on, even if it's a student like tech helper or a media specialist where they're doing the exchanges. And it's like now because they're forced to go one-to-one, it's almost like 2 hours a day is like what we hear of, like just doing exchanges
Mhm.
back and forth, where they see the value in the tower is they basically could kind of set it up where the students could use it as like a self-service, just grab a device.
Correct.
And so with that, it just has freed up those 2 hours a day, which every day or that's happening, that's 10 hours a week. You do the math, then the tower is well worth the investment because that time wasted.
Absolutely.
And have you seen that? Like, do you think that you've seen that ROI in your towers?
Hmm. Absolutely. We have the usage of them, and granted, there's a learning curve with the students, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like the rest of us, we're all resistant to change.
Yep.
And once they realized that, first of all, it was okay to let someone know that the device was damaged, that we do cut some slack, but we find out frequent flyers
Yeah.
and go from there. So it's become just, it's almost like it's like, okay, I can focus on the stuff and I don't want to say it this way, I can focus on more important things, but this is just a daily thing, like Katie said, where I would dedicate a certain amount of time. We're a district of, well, we're a building of 750 students, the middle school and high school. And then when you throw in the same amount out at the middle school, out of the two elementary schools, that's a lot of management. I'm the sole person that does all of that stuff with the help of my students. So it saves a lot of time.
And I think that in the last webinar, we talked about if you incorporated it with a ticketing system, because you had it set up more or less like it was in tandem. It wasn't a connected unit.
Right.
Tell me about the updates since our last conversation, and how you've incorporated it with a ticketing system so it all works kind of seamless and together.
Sure. Well, in a conversation that I actually had with Katie about things that we were doing with the tower, I had mentioned that we were looking for an inventory system for our devices. So because we were keeping track of our devices on a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet, so which was a constant issue with me because it was, human error plays into that so easily. So Katie informed me about a company called Learn21, which we partnered with to do our inventory system separately from the towers completely. And we were very happy to find out at some point that that LocknCharge and Learn21 actually worked together to provide a kiosk system for devices to kind of manage them with the software that LocknCharge offers, meshes with Learn21, and we have set up kiosks for that now, where I can specifically go in ahead of time and set up the entire tower into managed state, and then I can assign devices in each of those bays. And then as students put in, up in our offices, we have an office devices, we have kiosks in both of our main offices, middle school and high school office, as well as our guidance office and in the library, that they can go in and click their student ID, their asset tag on their Chromebook, and then type in what's wrong with it. And then they can choose the tower that they want to go get a loaner device from. And once they do that, the process starts. We get a notification that that's happened. They'll put their device in that tower, swap it out, take the loaner device. We'll go grab that device out of that loaner tower and replace it with a new loaner device, and then repair the device and get it back from them.
So within Learn21, you're able to track the asset of that individual and the asset they're borrowing because it under like a profile.
Correct. We can track not only the asset, our asset, the Chromebook, but we can track the repair of that device. And again, I mentioned frequent flyers. That
Sure.
just keeps a running list of the number of times that they have, been using their points. Let's just say that.
Redeeming their miles.
That's right.
Yeah. And so have you, like, since you incorporated that, did you incorporate it? I should have asked that in all of your towers, just some of your towers?
We have we decided, because just so everybody is clear on this, once you switch a tower from public mode to managed mode, that whole tower is now a managed tower. So that means you have full control over it, but that also means that that tower can't be used as a public charging kiosk. Okay, so we have done that where we have two towers relatively, our high traffic areas basically where students are. So up by our office, we have two towers because our middle school and high school office are next door to each other. We have two towers there because the library is right across the hall from it. So it is probably our busiest hall in that area. In addition to that, we have a similar space down in our middle school area, which tends to be further away from our high school, where the offices are. We have two towers that are near each other. So in those two spots where the two towers are each, we have one managed tower and we have one public tower.
Awesome.
So we have done it that way. We are probably at the point where we're probably going to do, just because the need usage is going and growing as more people start to utilize this and say, hey, why am I trying to go find Mr. Ladouceur during my fourth period study hall when I don't even know if he's going to be in his office when I can just do this? So it's, word of mouth is getting out there. I think they may be starting to read my messages that I send out to them on Parent Square and stuff like that. So, so it's growing, and we're probably going to be wind up doing the same in our other spots where we have two towers, which are in our cafeterias.
And how easy was it to implement Learn 21 with your towers? How was that process?
Well, first of all, when we initially set up our towers for access just with LocknCharge, that was so easy. And it was a couple of quick webinars with the trainers to make sure that we were good to go. Katie was involved in it, helped me get all of that set up, just so we could get the towers functioning and utilizing them even without Learn 21. So that was really our first step in making them work for us, where we could kind of manage them and help with our problem we were having of getting devices to kids as quickly as we possibly can. With the implementation of Learn 21, it's made it additionally easier by the fact that we can preload all of those, and students can now get a device immediately assigned to them as a loaner once they go use the kiosk. And they can use the kiosk on their own Chromebook, because we actually link the kiosk. The kiosk link is on our school website as well. So depending on the damage to the Chromebook, or whether they have it or not, they could technically do it right on their own Chromebook, because sometimes it's a key that's loose. Yeah. So they'll just say, oh, I'm going to go get a loaner device so that Mr. Ladouceur can send that out to BOCES for repair. So it works a lot like that.
Awesome. So yeah, so in terms of, so adding actually the ticketing and asset management system with a tower has maybe even improved some of that downtime.
It's kind of brought it full circle, I guess, is how I want to refer to it.
Yeah, because I know there's a lot of school districts that do use the towers without it, because we do have that backend software that you can do some limited asset tracking. We don't obviously have that ticketing in the software, but they're using it without a ticketing system, and they have a great system that works for them, and it's still saving them a ton of time. But I think incorporating an integration also makes it enhance the experience, because you have everything all within that ticket system platform versus having to be in ours, and they're not working in tandem. It's all together.
And I'm going to say this too. So I'm going to give a shout out to Jordan, because I see Jordan's in here right now. He's our guy at St. Lawrence Lewis BOCES. So I'm glad to see he's in here. So, so long story short, when we keep track of our own ticketing system through Learn21, but we also have to, when we send a device out for repair, which goes to our BOCES for repair, and they're awesome over there, we have to do a separate ticket for those 4 BOCES. So we send those out in a different manner, but we still keep track of it within the software as well. So we kind of do it in 2 places, but Jordan's working on all of that and getting that working better for all of us. So,
I
but
mean,
yeah, we're very happy with the process and how things are much more streamlined now. First and foremost, with the towers have provided us so much more flexibility to be able to do stuff, so that students have an immediate fix for it. Because the teachers were very worried. They were like, okay, so their device is not charged. Okay, their device is broken. And in some cases, some of our teachers are using their devices a lot more than there used to be, using their devices in class. So an uncharged device is a big deal. So, in my philosophy, I taught first and second grade for years. I thought if my kids in first and second grade can make sure that their device is charged and are responsible for them, then, when they get in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, then they should be making sure those are charged. Well, we all know that that doesn't work in reality.
Yeah.
But first of all, having the towers to be able to put them in and charge them was a huge deal. But just simply being able to put in a device and say, hey, you can go grab that there's your daily loaner, that has really been a game changer for us.
awesome. I mean, I think I've asked all the questions that I wanted to regarding your updates and how it's all kind of come full circle. I think this is a great time to kind of open up to any questions that people may have.
Yeah, Katie, we did have one question in the chat earlier.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And Bob, you answered it. The first part of the question was, how do you track which devices are being taken by which students, which is through the Learn21 integration. But there's a second part of the question that asked, can a student check out multiple devices at a time, or kind of how do you regulate that?
We regulate that. So once they have one device, we do not allow them to, unless it's marked as officially as a loaner, we get a notification that states that, but that's through our Learn21 software.
And in our software, so if you didn't use Learn21, there is a way to restrict to 1 reservation at a time. So you don't have to worry about a kid going in and grabbing every device. So like if you didn't use the ticketing system, our software does allow that as well.
Yeah, I want to add to we had a problem with that initially, and Katie, you helped me with it. Back before we were connected with Learn21, we were going in and having students just type in their codes and
oh yeah,
look like they remember that. Look at all the tower was reserved, and when I went in to look at it, when you go into the Learn21 software, you can see the students that have the towers reserved or have reserved the tower, the bay, sorry, and it was all the same person. All the way down the tower. I'm like, how do I stop this? And she was great at showing me how to take care of that. So she got me hooked up. So that was good.
so funny.
Yeah. Nothing in any of the bays. But
just playing around. Yeah. Savannah, is there any others?
Yeah, it looks like we have one now in the chat. What other ticketing systems does the LocknCharge software integrate with? And is Incident IQ included?
Yes, we do integrate with Incident IQ as well. So they are one of our integration partners as well as Learn21. And then the tower itself does have an open API. So if you wanted to do some side coding, which who has time for that? But if you do, we do have districts that have done that with their platform because we haven't integrated with them yet. And our plan is to get into more, where they actually coded it to work with our tower in the same kind of capacity. And we have a lot of customers that are doing that, but one customer in particular that we have a video if anyone would be interested that wanted to see how they did that.
I want to add that the towers themselves, just with the ease of looking at them, and they're right behind Katie,
Yeah.
where she is.
Okay.
So you can see very easily that those are they're very easy to know when a bay is being used, when it's not being used, if there's a problem with it, any of that stuff. So you're looking at green means go, right? And when it's white means it's in use. And when it goes completely black, which oftentimes happens, one of the hard things we've had to remind kids is our Chromebooks are in cases as well, and sometimes they love to stuff the pockets with all kinds of stuff. So we have to remind them to take the stuff out of the pocket before they put it into the bay. So they're getting a little better at that.
I see this one. Does each bay hold a single device? I'm a student and I need a loaner. Can I request one loaner but take multiple? So in each bay, if you wanted to, there is a USB-C port and a standard outlet. So you could potentially have two devices in there if you wanted to. Can I request a loaner but take multiple? Most people, if they're going to do like a loaner workflow, they're not going to have two loaners in there and have two students coming to get separate ones just because they don't want that to happen. Hope that.
I will say that students tend to like having the extra USB port in there because they will often charge their phones with their Chromebook.
Because their phones are the most important thing that they
absolutely
need.
God forbid we can't have that dead.
No.
The Chromebook, forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah, another question. Is it possible to trial or do a demo of the LocknCharge Smart Locker with the Learn21 ticketing system?
Yeah, yep. So we do for our tower demo, we send our 5-bay just because we ship it there and back. It's totally free. It comes with 30 days of the software. So you could play around with our software, see if that's all you would need. If you wanted to incorporate Learn21, they have a great program too, where you're able to test out their platform and the integration. So you're able to do both. The big question, what about the pricing for the lockers? So the pricing kind of depends on your use case. And so we obviously have that 5-bay, we have a 15-bay, we have software packages that includes 3 to 5 years. The best would be if you have a reseller, if you have to go through the BOCES, they can give you actual formalized pricing on all of the different types of tower. Because we actually have some customers, like Bob said, that have the tower for public charging. So you don't actually need the software then. So then the physical tower is all you need. So the software wouldn't be included in that, and it's cheaper than the package. But any reseller that you use to get like pricing for Chromebooks or anything like that can provide you with an accurate quote. Or you can also email me and I can give you like the MSRP costs and break it down.
Yeah. And we worked directly with CDW when we went through this process, and Katie and our rep Matt at CDW chatted back and forth, and that was a really seamless process.
Perfect. Yeah, and I just added Katie's contact information in the chat. So if you want to grab it from there before we jump off. And then if there's no more questions, it looks like we're just past 9:30, so we can wrap it up.
Awesome.
Thank you again, Bob, for jumping on and sharing your experience with Smart Lockers and Learn21.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bob. You're the best.
Thanks,
I always will say that.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great rest of your week. Don't catch what we have.
That's right. Stay away from that.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.